Hello, I'm Veronique and I'm back with the new videos. I'm going to speak about the CICAM based on my Bachelor of Transport Logistics, which has been I had in 2015. So today the next chapter is focused on the government impact based on the African brands. What is the strategy that the tax and the government has made through it? So the question is how and why African government create the strategy process management, and it has been founded through different research references such as President John Atta Mills of Ghana said that the African fashion material are very promising the economic of country, and he that the project of Accra materials and add on the interview session project that cannot only be fashion industry but the government also put its own role to help the industrial process, such as through the report of government, institutional, private, former playing an important role in the term investment in Africa, closing brown because the many industry in African textiles depend on the financial of the different such as African brand need an investment of 15 billion for the next 5 years for the personal and coming continent and economic growth in Africa for the government. Unfortunately, the private formers and the economic such as Golo Kudus, creator director CEO of Kulu, Goodies Couture, Lagos State coordinator for the fashion design associate in Nigeria, father small and medium and enterprise say that the lack of capital where significant difference have been found including that the strength of the president John Atta Mills say that the economic role finding the accurate political and the legal force icon of changing the law the regulations and the significant impact that the manager of the company has. So this is actually important. So the industry of fashion and industry for African brand are mainly the key for African continent economic as the president Accra has been said. It also means say that the following things that been talking regarding the controversy in Africa continent. So it's been said that through the reference that Abraham Gonzom General Security of Taxi Government say that the leader working union say that the decision of the government has 3 points that they working through it. The government let the state lose a lot of money, the government evade tax, and the government cause massive unemployment regarding that. And it's also going deeper and deeper. The government decided to burn all the contraband materials and the clothes are fancy manufactured because the government burn the country simple because they actually take the market of the current true quality materials on African continent. And then normally that the project has a product quality that's compared to the river. The customer pushes the item to the post. So the South Africa as an example of African continental brand that has been controverted from the very cheaper price for the Chinese market. This is due that the wholesaler Visco in the Nana Banks in Togo increased the cost of the change. So sometimes they increase the degrees of cost to take the market. Before the cost was about 20,000 francs CFA for 6 meters, and today the wax is about 6 meters for 14,000 CFA. So the cost of the item is increasing because the Chinese take the market. So we wanted the country, the big organization wanted to keep the quality of the garments. So because the price so high that they prepare to sacrifice the value and up to the low price, so that they decide to decrease the price so that they send the quality materials from the sources from Africa. So the challenge is to assure that appropriate level of value is offered and accepted price. In the case of Abi Ravat Taxi, the gatekeeper, the Ghana, like has said that a business depend on those Chinese controlled material because the material manufacture cost is locally is very expensive and they prefer to buy from Chinese because the low cost. So some of them African got to store their own returns by purchasing those contraband drugs to the Chinese market so that they can meet in according to the fact that they are in the locally and it is a cheaper compared to the high quality from their own source of the company. So the economic competitions. What do you think about it? I mean, this is a challenge. So the economic competition. The economic competition is the taxation's government policy within the African continent. It has been said that the researcher found out that The collaboration between organizations must achieve an advantage to avoid the competitions. Collaborations between the potential competitor, the buyers, the sellers, and these advantages are actually combine the price and the possessions. The collaboration treating costs, such as Visco, became a partner with Cotton Made in Africa, CMAA. Visco shared the marketing and the communications process resource because increasing the local sources materials in inventory chains. The strategy of Visco is to add to the local farmer and show low how the cotton is sold and impact the Nigeria because the Ministry of Industry, Trade Investments, such as Dr. Olusegun Anganga, say the following report that the signing of memorandum of understanding between the Dutch textile and design company to mark the trade of the government content textile garment Biskuku and the federal government of Nigeria will create a platform for significant expansion of African larger economic. He said that Visco group activity are expected to deliver more than 10,000 jobs in Nigeria in the medium terms. This means that the creations of jobs, adaptations in markets, such as create job skills, and make sure that the collaborations between these different states and different organizations actually create jobs. I actually found that in Ghana losing 20 million of CDA annual textile industry style, $30 million. The government recently said that in that time, since 2006, that meeting with all African leaders to discuss about the problem to protect the market, such as because the high cost of tax. And then according to one of the references, the reasons because across all Africa increases economic because of quota. So the old system called a multi-fiber army, so MFA, as a limit textiles and close the export by producing country to the world biggest markets in the US, Canada, and European Union has already cost Africa more than 250,000 jobs over the last few years, reporting the following. International Textile Garment and Leader Workers Federations, leaving more than the millions family members with a stable income. They report that most jobs have been lost in Lesotho, South Africa, Swaziland, Nigeria, Ghana, Mauritius, Zambia, Madagascar, Malawi, Namibia, and Kenya. And all Asia producers disagree about the AFA quota because the quota were an affair is certain value. And value, because in 1944 the WTO set an agreement on the textiles and the clothing providing for a phase of removal of the quota in the sector of 10 years, and the large in Asia northern return intimate one day. Textile Federation 2007, the empire in Nigeria of January 2008, the quota percentage was 141, which is noticed a reduction of the quota in 2008 of 21%. So this is an example of it. And following that, the government trade say the following African government has a New York Continental Conference on the future of the clothing, textile, footwear industry. The purpose of this meeting will be to trade the government, trade union, investor to develop the plan to respond to the current crisis by increasing efficiency in the sector, attracting the investments and improve workers' welfare, such as the benefit or NGO, regime signed in the law in the US in 2000 have a textile export of 38 eligible African countries now, but enjoy the tariff and the quota. Exemption such quota as good and back the UD and Paul from Kenya, Lesotho, Madagascar, Mauritius, South Africa increased by 60% between 1990s, and taxes to the US 501% increase the percent of years. Fortunately, the significant advantage of RGO country average US tariff in the sector among 17% of land value of the product with cotton, averaging 30% and synthetic to 25%. So this is actually how the government trade has made. You can see how involved it is, the textile industry in African continent and the collaborations that create into the trades made in international USA, European, and also all the part of country in Africa who are involved through it. We are very concerned of the job skills of our people, so that the people in Africa can carry on through the wages, the tariff, the everything. The industry of textile in Africa are very valuable into a country, as the reader said. This is how our project is. This has a meaning. Following that, why Africa should overcome their risk management. It's, according to the book or reference from Job Donors, he said the fundamental feature of risk is that unforeseen event may happen in the future. Risk occur because there is uncertainty about the future. This uncertainty means that expect will not occur, and when expect occur, they because they are damaged. So the local manufacturing in Africa may produce African brands, and the supply chains, the map of the supply chain. When you are in the some locations in Africa, they do not have a cross of the supply chains design. So they do not have the picture of how to do. For example, supply chain and sourcing to intimate and customer, whatever the theory, should be fully advantage for those manufacturers. In addition, by having a picture of the supply chains of the risk management to overcome. The end of the second close sold from overseas will affect the profit of African continent brands, and duplicate of African brands cause the Chinese government became the subsidiary of African continent textile industry. Many manufacture of textile clothes because the price of the fabric is so expensive, and the Chinese manufacture over is much more cheaper. So say the Rondodo say that the Chinese market will positively affect the African economic for the long term. And they say that the case regarding the textiles clothing industry in the continent, Africa appreciate the cheaper clothing and textiles from Chinese rises and supposing local manufacturers of the continent. So it's such as lack of training and scale of economic and transportation issue that impact the structure. So the lack of training, such as for example, for those who actually used to create and design with their own hand without any handling equipment, and now they have to use handling equipment and understanding the market, such as Visco say that they make a student going to university that can have the knowledge based on that. So the Visco also make the talent and then the financial autonomy because the fixations of fashion show. African continent need to teaching the tools of the fashion design and engineering three artist talents. Fortunately, demonstrate that they are programmed that put in place of bulk style schools, fashions, and design has been improved. The quality of design of the mode dress and the style of those men and women. We have here an example of those schools. In here, Visco polling training in Ghana. You can see the classes of those people. Over here, demonstrate that here that the economic of scales is regarding demonstrate the market of the economic of scales in West Africa, Africa, North Africa, Western Africa, and Europe, Western Europe. That's how the training it is. And because the Chinese are influenced the economic and the political landscape, the technology, the machine equipment and device that create or deliver the product and the service such as a large scale and scope, China engaged with African and many advantages in economic to develop and also come many costs. Unfortunately, African technology advancement investment in capital has been relatively very low compared to the development of the nations. The clothing textile industry has a high cost of labor, low production and turnover times, and the weak value, and they cannot keep it for the trend. Fortunately, the equipment to improve the productivity and the quality of the product, alternative Africans, and also the LA Connect, the PC, the workshop and several departments allow all of the staff to come on access the data file. In addition, the big data, LNS, is the greater flexibility when you compare to other customer from a distribution process. And this is actually we can make it through local entrepreneurship, telephone communication, and customer supply chains through the provider on the different parties involved. Transportation in Africa is a challenge in terms of infrastructure. The lack of infrastructure has a negative impact on African and international trade. In addition, most of the world discuss the issue to do business with African because it's difficult to them to access the African market because due to the poor infrastructure, road and reach on confirming on the most decisions on the infrastructure and directly made by the government, such as road, rail track, airport, privatizations, and privativity. On the transport business, such as distribution center. In addition, such as the African leaders are meeting to discuss the current situation for infrastructure as the economy. However, numerous leaders ex-Africa had meeting, and the President Jacob Zuma project was to invest 97 billion on infrastructure over the upgrade road, port and transportation network and access codes and other mineral. But some internal rights agency don't believe the project of President Jacob Zuma. In addition, because Africa has a global credit rating which has about 1,000 organizations in depth issue in over 30 countries. Fortunately, some investment in clothing manufacturing in Lesotho and Swaziland relocated the manufacturing textile for being in just-in-time delivery to the customer. In addition, the project for the president was a positivity impact, such as an export and increasing and making service in road into employment in South Africa industry and demand a collectivity bargaining arrangement and driving access of the process and formality that exceed the labor standard decline the shadow for many workers. In this part, we've been talking about the government and significant role of the supply chain of the African brand within our continent. In some challenges, makers collaborate with different European and international countries based on the tariff quota. It's been discussed that the supply chains are in fact in textile brand in the local and the certain country in Africa. Fortunately, the result of this demonstrates that some local collaborate together with certain European design to open the market with the current supply chain. They adapt to the current situation of the African supply chains. So they collaborate with those who can meet according to this. So this is an example of how the transportation is made. This is a supply chain in the African continent that has been explained how the current situation in the African continent in the supply chains that can be made reach many keys such as the closing, tax, marketing, transportations, economy, scale, trade, total, tariff. All this is included to the supply chains. The supply chains is not just a close or anything. It's requiring different factors to be put into the place. So the improvement of the supply chain in Africa as the continent has a big resources that can be used, and the big resources are materials, are commercial. There's many artists who wearing our clothes, such as Beyonce, such as Kelly Rowland, such as the African Nigerian who using that clothes. There's many even government. We have the wife of Jimmy Biden, the new president of America, wearing her clothes. She wearing the clothes. So it's to say that African brand is now commercials to any kind of market. Artists, movies, anything are using, especially for the people into the country in external, you wearing that clothes just for fashion, for the way. But for our way in Africa, there's a meaning in events such as for wedding, for baptizing, for any event we wear in the clothes. We have our own meaning. We customize the design to make it according to the event. So the clothing market of African brand is in the demand, and it can be much more profit by setting a best and efficiency profitable market in Africa. Improving the supply chains, understanding the market research of African continent can improving the supply chains of brand textile, not just only for African brand, but also for the textile, for the older resources that can be export and import from African continent within the African continent and also to the external markets. Thank you very much for your listening for this part. This was the literature review only. The next points, I'm going to go straight away through the analysis that I made, focus on the survey questions, the data that I collect from the company, and then we're going to summarize. Thank you very much for your listening. And if you have any questions, please email me. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.